Historic neighborhood tours have become social events like art exhibits or car shows all across America. Today we go history tripping through the Bronzeville neighborhood, Chicago, Illinois.
This is the Chicago edition of History Trippin. My name is Dilla and I'm your favorite neighborhood historian. I lead Bronzeville neighborhood tours where I teach you about the Black metropolis and also where I teach you why everything dope about America comes from Chicago. Today we're getting ready to view the very awesome Bronzeville. For my money, it's one of the most historic neighborhoods in all of America, not just Chicago.
We stopped by the chic Bronzeville winery to enjoy some delicious hors d'oeuvres and cocktails.
Brother Wilson, if you're ready, I'm ready. We can take off. I'm the son of a Chicago police officer. He was a cop here for 32 years. He was part of a few historic details when Mayor Harold Washington became the first African-American to become mayor of Chicago. He was on that historic detail when Carol Moseley Braun became the first African-American woman to become a Black U.S. Senator, right? He was on that detail as well. He's worked for Bobby Rush and a number of other Black luminaries. And so when you're around history makers, they typically talk history, and I picked up a lot of his Chicago history that way. So during Black History Month, if you were in school, when I was in school, they handed out the little cards and it said, Dr. Daniel Hale Williams was the first person to successfully perform an open heart surgery, and that's the end of the card. What it didn't say is that he did that in 1893 at Providence Hospital, which is the first hospital founded by and for African Americans in this country.
Why should we go and learn about history that we are not taught? As a white person, definitely, I think it's very much a need to go and experience other cultures. I think that our culture is very kind of dictated by the powers that be, and to know is to better understand and to appreciate and to build community. Because I always think that cities are so segregated. Every city I've ever lived in is so segregated, and I wish there was more integration.
A lady who had moved from the South to Chicago was singing hymnals at Ebenezer Baptist. She decided that she didn't want to sing it hymnals, right? Hymnals singing about the Lord without musical accompaniment, right there. That's why they call them hymn books, right? She decided she didn't want to sing hymns at Ebenezer anymore. She was going to come to Pilgrim. So when she gets to Pilgrim, the pastor says, hey, we got this parishioner named Thomas Dorsey. He's super sad about his wife. Would you go by there, sing to him, try to get him to come back to church? She does. When she gets there, she sees that poem or that provocation. She says, hey, bro, this could be a song. He sits down at the piano, plays the music. She sings the song. That moment is the birth of gospel music in this country. That song, we refer to it as Precious Lord, and the lady who sung it, her name is Mahalia Jackson. That east parking lot that you see was formerly the Regal Theater, and that's where they discovered the Jackson 5. That bronze sculpture of Brother Harold is the only full-body sculpture of the man in the city. Most other bronze busts of Harold's are shoulder up. After Reconstruction, which is a thing we don't got time to explain, the people in New Orleans decided that African Americans couldn't perform in public anymore. And so Chicago had these things called tan clubs. So people like King Oliver and Jelly Roll Morton moved to Chicago. They invite a 16-year-old clarinet player to join them. And so they're performing at clubs, and their day jobs is player piano roles, right? And so you ever seen one of those old-timey movies where the dude's playing the piano, and then when he gets up, the piano's still playing? It's called a player piano. How it works is you put the roll in and you spin it, and each time the hole in the roll matches up with a key, the key drops down, and it does that to play the song. Well, somebody got to put the holes in the rolls. So that was what most of those jazz luminaries came to Chicago for because it was a very good day job. You just sat there and played your songs and made these roles for them, right? And it was musical practice, so it made you better at playing your song, right? So they had a performance on the south side of Chicago right about 1915. A Chicago Tribune writer went to hear about the show. He did not like the music, right? He hated it. Hey bro, you talking all that jazz, quit talking to me, right? That's what he felt about the music, but the word stuck and we started calling it jazz. So it's a fact. The first city to ever refer to the genre as jazz is Chicago. So while we didn't invent the genre, we named the genre. If you land at Midway or O'Hare Airport, there'll be signs that tell you where to go visit stuff, and none of it says go to the south side. I don't know why you wouldn't show off the home of Louis Armstrong. Like, it's crazy.
So if you come to Chicago, there are so many things to see, and people know to visit the Willis Tower. They know to visit the Bean, but so often you don't often hear how to visit places like where Louis Armstrong was born, or where so many pieces of history, whether it be related to the Civil War or whether it be related to women's suffrage, where that originated in Bronzeville. So to be able to not just understand the history, because it's part of all of our history, but to be able to understand where it comes from is it's not just important as a Chicagoan, but as an American, and as someone who's just so proud to continue to learn more about our own history and where we come from.
This house on the corner is one of Chicago's first smart houses ever. If you look, you can see it collects the rainwater to be reused, has solar panels, it's 100% off the grid. Been there for 20 years. Again, you never heard about it because it's on the south side. Daniel Burnham designed the front part of DuSable Museum. It was formerly the Park District Administration Building. Then it became the Park District Police Station, and then finally, DuSable Museum. This is Ida B. Wells-Barnett. If you're a fan of Lil Wayne, he says, please say the baby. Miss Barnett would say, please say the Barnett. She was married to Ferdinand Barnett. He's the fourth African-American in the state to pass the bar. He's the first African-American to be an assistant state attorney here. He's one of the first exonerationists in this country's history. He was an exonerationist before that word was even invented. And so that's why that kind of dude was able to pull the very fine Ida B. Wells, because my wife ain't here. She was definitely fine if you see in her youth, right? Everything on the FBI's database that has anything to do with lynchings in the late 1800s, early 1900s, that data comes pretty much exclusively from the work of Ida B. Wells-Barnett.
Hi, my name's Raina Yancey. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I came to Chicago to learn more about Black history. I was inspired to come out today to learn from Dilla, to learn more about my history, history of my people, the history of America. Black history is American history. And the thing that I learned the most about was the history of Black lawyers here in Chicago. I'm a lawyer here in Philly and in Chicago, and I love hearing more about my profession.
All right, so I want you looking out the window, you're gonna say, I want you looking west, look west, think red window. If you start thinking red window right now, one will appear. I'm pointing west, you're looking for a red window. The house with the red window, that's the home of Ida B. Wells. So her and brother Ferdinand Barnett lived right there. We refer to this as the monument dedicated to the Great Migration. You probably think the dude's suit is made of feathers. It is not. It's made of shoe soles. Some of those shoe soles have holes in them, meaning that even if you have to walk off the soles of your shoes, come to Chicago where there'll be better opportunity. At the conclusion of this tour, we are heading over to the Bronzeville Winery. It's on 44th and King Drive. We're gonna have a cocktail, maybe discuss some of the stuff that we learned. They have like appetizer type food.
At Bronzeville Winery, we were very excited to be able to create a space that could pay homage to the storied history of Bronzeville by celebrating not only those people and historians and makers and creators that have come before us, but also those that make our neighborhood and our community so beautiful today.
Sure, you've noticed that Black men love cognac. P. Diddy made a whole song about it, right? Pastor Cavassier. It's no secret the brothers love cognac. Teach you a lesson, right? You cannot call a cognac unless the grape comes from Cognac, France. So that's why the liquor is called that. During World War I, African Americans were segregated in the armed services. So they fought pretty much exclusively in France. Up to World War I, and even before, it was this thing called pillaging, right? So I'm here to protect your village, right? And then once I fight off the bad guy, I go in your house, I take your food, I take your valuables, and I say, hey, I gotta feed these soldiers who are here to protect you. Well, during World War I, African Americans had only been about 40 years free of chattel slavery. And so because of that, they didn't want to go in anybody's houses. They rather just shoot the rabbit and eat what they kill than to go in people's houses, which had previously been the custom. You know what happened to all those French grannies was like, the brothers are cool, they do not come in our house. And so out of respect, they would give them pastries and also their bottles of cognac. And then one time, the Hennessy distillery was being attacked by German soldiers. The black soldiers just did what they were supposed to do. They fought off the Germans. As a thank you, the Hennessy guys would give them bottles of Hennessy. When you came home from World War I, you were the coolest black soldier ever if you still had your original bottle of Hennessy. I have had Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans on the bus, and they have said at their weddings, the father-in-laws were World War I veterans, and that was the occasion they decided to open that Hennessy that they had been saving. And then better than that, when Ebony and Jet was getting ready to fold because they were a new business, their first ever major sponsors were Hennessy. And now that I've told you this story, you can't think of a black occasion, Kwanzaa, anything. Hennessy is always one of the first to sign up to support their cause because they never forgot how valiant and how heroic African Americans were. And then the real proof is what happened the very next decade. So Josephine Baker, Richard Wright, and all these black luminaries go to Paris. That's where blacks go during the 20s and 30s, right? And they're welcomed with open arms because of how heroic and how respectful those black soldiers were during World War I. So when you see me at a bar, tip your hat for the black soldiers and send me a Hennessy neat. So the YMCA, Young Men Christians Association, young people on the bus, think of them as what you think of hostels are today, right? When you travel somewhere, it has cheap accommodation. But then also YMCA's provided job training. They provided housing for returning veterans. That's why that building has apartments, right? If you look up, this is an original version of what YMCA's looked like at the turn of the century. But America being America, they did not allow African Americans to spend the night in most YMCA's. My main man, Julius Rosenwald, saw that as an issue, so he provided 60% of the funding to build what became the second YMCA in the country to let African Americans fully use the facilities. I stopped here because that is the birthplace of Black History Month in this country, right? So in that building, Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the Association of the Study of Negro Life and History came up with Negro Achievement Week. And then it grew to Negro Achievement Month. And then the Black Power movement of the 60s happened and it got a new name. And Jimmy Carter finally made it Black History Month. But the organizational structure and concept for that comes from that building.
I taught African American studies. So this tour fit right into my plans. Not only did it give me, it confirmed the history that I already knew, but it also introduced new history, new thoughts, new thinking. And so it's very invaluable, I feel, to the community and to the city at large.
This is the oldest and one of the only still continually running art facilities that was created by the WPA during the Great Depression. Eleanor Roosevelt cut the ribbon to open that place. We give New York the credit for Gordon Parks. He got trained there, right? And then there's this dude by the name of Maurice White. He started a band. You may have heard of it. It's called Earth, Wind, and Fire. When you start a band, you gotta have an organizational meeting to start the band, right? Maybe you're gonna have a rehearsal too. That's where the band started. They're celebrating 80 years now. They still do a lot of art activations. There's probably one going on now, so it's a place that I highly suggest you check out. We pull off, my brother.
After an informative and engaging tour, the last stop was the upscale Bronzeville Winery.
So we've stopped at the Bronzeville Winery, located on 44th and Cottage Grove. It's one of the newest Black-owned businesses in Bronzeville. It's a place of celebration and culture. I think it actually classes up Bronzeville, and I'm very proud to be a small part of its installation and its success.